Hello, I am I am starting part one of my portfolio, and this is basically a creation of a storyboard using the program Articulate. It's a storyboarding software that's used for purposes of integrating into or playing nice, if you will, with learning management systems. So this is the one that I have identified in using. I'm actually taking a presentation that was sent by Kelly. It's called the DRG mismatch training scenario. And I decided to just put it into the storyboard for purposes of making it a little bit more interactive. So the presentation such as this would probably be used during a WebEx presentation, a Skype. Um, we have actually have access to Blackboard Collaborate as well. So it could actually be used just to, along with the end user or along with the person that's the trainee, I guess, uh, that person to just interact and pretty much get store the information a little bit better or adequately before the main trainer comes on site. So that is pretty much the context in which I have created the storyboard. As you can see, the storyboard looks a little, it looks a little bit, it resembles PowerPoint. But it is not. It is actually its own storyboarding software, and it's set up, I think, like a lot of Microsoft programs, just to sort of, easier way to sort of let the user identify certain things and so that you have an easier experience. So this is the actual presentation that was dumped into this particular software. Now I did add a couple of more slides just to gain more, excuse me, of an understanding of the particular topic at hand. So it took a little bit of research with as it pertains to DRG mismatching. So I sort of gave a fun title to correct or not to correct. The first thing that I did was basically when I went to my insert, um, actually I went to slides and was actually able to import the actual PowerPoint. So that was the first step in starting to create the actual storyboard. This right here, this tab here, gives you more of a story view, so you can have an easier way to sort of look at all of the slides that were included. And as you can see, I've named each slide for easier access, just in case I want to jump to a specific slide. Okay, so these are just basically already completed. Um, on the right side are triggers, and they pretty much tell you how the slides are going to progress individually. If they're going to jump to the third slide, you can make it jump to the fourth slide. So a lot of opportunities for how the slides are going, how the information is going to be presented is up to the presenter. As far as adding, any other things to the storyboard, you also have options of adding different characters, as you can see. And some of them are lifelike characters. I have a limited program, so some of the other characters are unleashed upon further uh, uh, upon further actually updates, or not updates so much, but uh, you have to purchase a bigger package in order to get access to those. So you'll see a little bit of differences, not too many, with a full package versus the limited package. Um, as far as the back to the insert, you can also insert photos, illustrations, videos that you might have. Other than YouTube, if you have videos that are saved onto your computer, you can integrate those. That might be helpful uh, for the user. Web objects. Web objects are basically different things like, if you want to go ahead and integrate probably a hyperlink, which you will see in this presentation, you can. I like the interactive objects because the interactive objects is a part of the delivery of the content. So the markers you will see in the presentation I have used. The markers are used for providing more information on the slide rather than cluttering the actual piece of presentation. You can actually include different notations once you post these. So I use the numbers, and I believe that I use the play button as well throughout the presentation. Other things are the input buttons, and the input buttons are used to, again, interact with the end user. And basically, they have the option of entering a text. And that might be a question. I noticed that one of the slides had the person answer a question during the presentation. So it's a little bit a little bit easier for you to prompt them and say, if I'm actually doing a presentation with the end user, and I'll say, what, compare and contrast these. And this is just an example, actual example that I use within the presentation. And the person will say, oh, okay. And what are the differences that you said? So you can actually use these once you integrate them with the slides, of course. You can actually use these as sort of buttons for, answers. Check boxes, I did use those as well to sort of zone in on things that I was probably going to talk about on the slide coming up. So just a few sort of quick details on these. Now, the next thing, once you have completed this storyboard, the next thing that you want to do is to go ahead and, of course, save it. And then you want to go back and publish it. Now, as I was saying before, it is compatible with the LMS, meaning that you can take this same storyboard and integrate it into a learning management system. Part 2 of this presentation, I will be showing you how I actually did that. Saving it as an LMS. But right now, I'm going to go ahead and save it on the web. And it's already kind of defaulted for me for the web, but it has other ways that you can also save. You can save it as a video, Articulate online. Articulate actually has an online program. I have the desktop limited for now. CD, and then Word, I believe, publishes it as a actual picture of a storyboard, so it won't be interactive, of course. I'm going to go ahead and publish it on the web. And sometimes, depending upon how many slides you have, it takes a little while. But this looks like it's playing nice with me. And putting it on the web, it's actually from here, a HTML portion of the project. Okay, so that means that you can actually see the whole entire. You can see the entire presentation online. Okay, as you can see. Now start here. This is just, of course, the title. These are sort of my markers if I wanted to jump to the other part of the presentation. Some of the slides are timed. just in case, I'm going to also send you a package, just in case you wanted to look at it in presentation view. So I'm going to scroll from this part here, and I would use this portion, uh, this way of doing things if I had the person via WebEx. So the first one is just a general understanding of the coding culture, giving them more of a global view of what deciphering DRGs are. Okay, so I I used, what is Medicare. I pretty much hyperlinked that portion of this. The content also, because it's a limited version, I can't really, normally you'll see a screenshot of the actual video and you can actually play the video inside of the content. But because I have a limited version, it does not. So instead, it provides this hyperlink and it takes you to a video. And this is a video on how to build a DRG. Okay. All right. Next slide. I'm looking into the actual elements of a DRG. So as you can see, I gave them a global view, and I'm kind of bringing it in a little bit more. These markers here are, once you select them, they pretty much provide definitions of, of the particular columns. So that's very important to sort of, depends on what level the user is at, but this is pretty much a nice way to sort of, that the user can go back and say, wow, what does this mean, to sort of give them certain elements of that particular definition so they can understand the term. DRG assignment factors. This is just an example of different factors that are under the umbrella of DRGs. This is an example here. If I wanted to go in and talk a little bit more about two particular ones during the presentation, I can go ahead and select them while the users are on the call. Coding culture, again, this is sort of a global view in preparation to sort of get them prepared for the scenarios that I'm getting ready to introduce. The importance of explicitly stating principal diagnosis, all secondary diagnosis, and explicitly stating if diagnosis is present on admission, or different things that coders or designated staff um, look to do. So I'm giving them the right so that when they go in and view different scenarios, they'll pretty much go back to this particular slide, or I can sort of refer them back to that. Rating, this is another feature. The users can actually rate, okay, different things. So I'm gonna go back. That's an example of one of the time slides. So they can actually go back and rate. If they wanted to know more information about this section right here, okay, these are internal and external factors for mismatch issues. So as you can see, this portion right here, I want to go ahead and display. And this is a uniform hospital discharge data definition. So if I want to kind of zone in on that, I could. Now this is just another example of, if I wanted to have the other information at a later time, I could have that. And this is her asking the question, how can I go back to the abstract? So I put these sort of in steps. Again, if I wanted to give them examples of a reason code, I have, I can sort of hyperlink it back to the reason codes here. Okay, and again, the summary, different parts of the tabs I could zone in on. Now, this is just another example of, having them compare and contrast and sort of type in information as I present the information in that format. This is just another example of sort of zoning in to, I believe this part was about the date and, having, kind of showing them when this information was entered. And as you can see, I'm not really doing anything. It's sort of zoning in for me while I'm talking. Diagnosing the process in short steps. These are other examples of the markers. I'm kind of giving us examples of the steps that we're getting ready to go to. Okay, and I can also take these markers and pretty much put them in other parts of the presentation so the user can sort of reflect back to this particular slide. Overall display. This is just showing an overall display here. Okay, before we start an activity. And I could be presenting, talking, and it could zone in for me. Example, just like the previous two slides, the auto suggest feature, pretty much giving them examples of the feature while I'm going in and providing the lecture, or not so much the lecture, the training. This is just an example of, me presenting again, the arrows sort of coming into how to add the response. Step 4, developing reason codes for the DRG mismatch. And this portion right here, it says which reason code would you select given the above scenario. If I want to again ask them the question, they can answer during the presentation. Okay. And then again, this is where you close to the answer. This would actually populate on the next slide. Step 5, again, this is sort of coming back and forth so that I can sort of zone in on separate things, the reason codes. Same thing here, I can kind of zone into what each portion would mean. And of course, that would be the completion of this particular product here. So as you can see, again, you can use this with WebEx, Skype, Blackboard Collaborate. You can use it with any type of system where you can view a video at the same time and get your user to pretty much play along during the presentation rather than kind of sit there and sort of, expect them to retain the information. This was about 22 slides, but the presentation, if I go back slide to slide and slow it down, this could probably be maybe an hour-long presentation, and I think it's really better to have to it's about delivery, so it's better to definitely have so this so the end user could really learn from different portions or they'll get different layers or slices of the problem at hand. And they can also go back. This is a link, so they can actually go back and view the slide and work along with it in preparation for navigating the problem that was at hand. Okay, so this ends this